that Cody Rhodes defended his WWE Championship in a dark match in Wichita, Kansas? Did you know that Gunther defended his world title versus Jobber McGee in a Davenport, Iowa dark match?
No, nobody knew about that because nobody cares. I have a question for you. Did you know that Cody Rhodes has 7 title defenses in 270 days? Huh? Did you know that? Probably not, because the problem is, and the reason I'm making this video is because it's time to discuss the fact that nobody wrestles anymore, and it's absolutely egregious, and it's bad for the company. And something I quickly want to talk about before I get into this full-on rant, don't worry, it's coming. I just want to quickly say, the fact that WWE doesn't throw their stars out there more consistently like Rhea, Cody, Drew McIntyre, for example, etc. The fact that these kind of people are never wrestling is embarrassing. That means that Triple H and this new regime is okay with their top stars and the top main event attractions on the show that would give the fans potentially the best show are not going to be on the show wrestling. That's disrespectful to the fans if you really think about it. And on top of that, I want to take a quick 30 seconds or a minute, I suppose, to quickly shout out the actual workhorses and the people who are taking the Cena schedule. Sheamus, absolute banger after banger after banger. Somebody who actually shows up every week and actually wrestles. Bronson Reed when he was healthy, of course. You know what I mean? Carmelo Hayes, him. He wrestles. L.A. Knight, yeah, that man is wrestling. Shout out also to JD McDonough, the #1 stunner. Okay, I'm giving him a shout out as well. Dominic Mysterio, thank you for wrestling. As much as I don't really care for this dude's run right now, Damian Priest, thank you for wrestling consistently. I respect you. I appreciate you. Bianca Belair, Io Sky. Shout out to big Io Sky for being absolutely phenomenal over the last year in wrestling consistently. There's probably a couple others I'm forgetting, but those are the main ones I wanted to just bring up. Also, Rey Mysterio and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Randy Orton. You 4 were phenomenal. And the fact that they're wrestling consistently at their ages, beautiful. And also, shout out to the last fighting champion that we actually had, Seth freaking Rollins. Shout out to him. Shout out to the Big Yeet Jey Uso for wrestling consistently. And shout out to I Love You Solo Sikoa for wrestling as well. There's others I forgot, like I said, but those are the main ones that jump out to me as actual workhorses who wrestled consistently. So I respect you. Now let's get into the rant. Now, I don't care what anybody says, right? As long as, if you are not defending your championship or fighting on Raw or on SmackDown or on a PLE, the match to me doesn't count. It doesn't count for anything because, number one, it's happening at a dark match at a live event. And the reason WWE is doing way less live events this year is because of multiple different reasons. Number one, everybody can just record now with the advent of social media and everything. You can just record the dark match and everyone on the internet will be able to see it. We're all able to see multiple of the matches that happened on their recent holiday tour at the live events, so that's not a problem. Number two, nobody cares about the live events. Number three, it's pointless and it risks wrestlers getting injured at the live events in matches that don't even matter. Number four, right? The reason they're also shortening the live events is simply the fact that it's a waste of money, right? It's a waste of money. They're selling out maybe like 20% of these live events, like maybe. Like, nobody actually cares about these live events. And if that's wrong, well, I'm sorry. But I highly doubt they're selling out every single one of these live events, or if any at all. You know what I mean? So just stop it. Anyways, as I was saying, dark matches, live events are absolutely pointless. I don't care if Gunther defended his championship versus Ilya Dragunov on a live event. And you know what else that I was just saying? Ilya Dragunov actually tore his ACL at a live event match with Gunther in like the middle of 2024. Do you see what I'm saying? Or like late 2024, whatever. It's a waste of time, and you're risking wrestlers getting injured in matches that literally do not matter. Now, I'm not here to knock live events because, of course, live events are important. It's ways for fans to engage with wrestlers and get them in a specified setting that is actually probably really fun. I'm sure live events are absolutely fantastic. However, when the wrestlers are wrestling more on live events than they are in the ring, it's a problem and it's an inconsistency. That's probably another reason why they're shortening the number of live events. And like I said, it's absolutely great that, the live events exist and that, fans can have these special moments and connections with these wrestlers and all this other stuff. But what about entertaining the fan that's actually watching week to week and keeping the lights on in the company? The fans who are viewing it week to week and watching the PLEs and buying the merch and all that other stuff, those are the people who are keeping the doors open and the lights on for WWE to be here as long as it has been. So why not entertain them instead of worrying about entertaining 5,000 people in Wichita, Kansas? Come on, man. Just saying. And the simple fact is that, again, like I said, unless you're wrestling on TV or you're wrestling on a PLE, the matches do not matter. Cody Rhodes, in the last however many 9 months he's been champion, has 7 title defenses or 6 title defenses. It's unacceptable. I don't care if he defended his championship versus AJ Styles 15 times on a dark match in Davenport, Iowa. You know what I'm saying? Or Little Rock, Arkansas. Like these no-name places. Corpus Christi, Texas. Gunther fought in Corpus Christi, Texas against Damian Priest and Akira Tozawa. Like nobody cares about this nonsense, man. Stop it. Rhea Ripley, 3 matches on Raw in the last year. In the last year. What am I supposed to do with that? I don't care if she's wrestling on a dark match or a live event and some viral video comes out. And of course, just like it always is, let me guess, somebody was twerking at the live event. You know, it's like somebody was twerking in front of the crowd at the live event. So what? Nobody cares. You know what I'm saying? She's doing more on live events in terms of wrestling than she is on TV. So it doesn't matter. Do you understand this? It's just egregious. And the simple fact, now that we're off of the topic of live events and dark matches, which absolutely in the pantheon genuinely don't matter to the average fan, right? Now we need to talk about the fact that wrestlers are simply not wrestling on TV. And I'm tired of hearing the excuse, oh, well, I'm glad they're not being overworked anymore in this new Triple H regime. You know, Vince McMahon had people breaking their necks and breaking their backs. And listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys, right? Vince McMahon definitely was overworking some of the talent to the point where it was really bad for their bodies. And it was very bad, some of the things that happened under his regime with certain wrestlers. You know, like CM Punk, for example, had some issues, but a lot of wrestlers had issues as well. You know, Randy Orton, I think, had some stories about stuff that was happening under Vince's regime with him working so many dates and his back giving out, all this other stuff. But the point is, there needs to be a healthy balance. If you are going to wrestle on live events, that doesn't mean that you should not be wrestling on TV at all. There has to be some sort of give-off or trade-off, right? Even though you could say whatever you want about how Vince McMahon was overworking these wrestlers, there is something to be said about the fact that people like Undertaker, John Cena, Randy Orton, Shawn Michaels, you know, all these different wrestlers, Triple H for years, CM Punk, you know what I'm saying? All these wrestlers for years were able to work these live events and do these live shows and these dark matches that were absolutely entertaining and probably very joyful for the crowd. And some of these moments, you can find them on the internet very easily. It's sacred and special moments that these fans are able to share with these wrestlers, and like I said, a specified setting. But the problem is, why are you wrestling more matches and dark matches than you are on the main roster and TV and PLEs? And with those wrestlers I named, like Taker, Cena, you know, Orton, all these other wrestlers, there is something to be said about the fact that they were able to wrestle probably like 50 to 100 dark matches in like a year and a half span, and also were able to wrestle like 20 plus matches on TV/pay-per-views a year. Do you see what I'm saying? How is it possible that they're able to balance both of these things, wrestle on TV every single week dang near, and then also wrestle on all these pay-per-views with none of this, you know, at least when they were doing it in their primes, like in the early 2010s and the 2000s and all this other stuff, there wasn't as many, you know, stem cell therapy and stem cell treatment and the advents of science and technology to help them deal with their bodies and deal with all of these injuries, and they were still able to wrestle all those matches and be that consistent. So if they were able to do that in that time period, how in the world are these wrestlers who are now, you know, with freaking all this technology and all this other stuff? It's 2025. AI can literally throw some libations up on the grill and make me a burger and give me some Wheatley to wash it down. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what? How is it possible in this new day and age, these wrestlers are wrestling 1/4 of the amount wrestlers used to wrestle like 10 to 15 years ago? You know? There's no excuses for this nonsense, and it takes away from the product because, of course, the pantheon of wrestling is centered around the facts of, you know, the merits, I should say, of storytelling, you know what I'm saying, feud, drama, entertainment, acting, of course, physicality, athleticism, wrestling, obviously, and storylines, and you know, all that stuff that goes into the antics of professional wrestling, the presentation of it, all of that, right? So how in the world, out of all those factors, in the title of the company, is any wrestling company has the word wrestling or ring or you know, fight inside of it? So World Wrestling Entertainment, why is there no wrestling? And there's no entertainment anymore. You know, if you're not going to wrestle, it's one thing if, like, for example, right, CM Punk, I've obviously said that recently since he's come back since 2023, he has been washed in the ring, in my personal opinion. But even with him being washed in the ring, at least he was showing up semi-consistently on Raw to build feuds with McIntyre and Rollins and to cut promos that were actually pretty solid for the most part. You know what I mean? At least he's building these stories. He's playing a passive yet active role, which I appreciate, and I really respect CM Punk for doing that over the last year or so when he was injured with that tricep. That's something that more wrestlers need to take notes of, because if you're not wrestling in the ring, you can still contribute on the mic and with storytelling and with segments. But the problem is, if Cody Rhodes, who again does not barely wrestles on TV at all, you can count on one hand how many TV matches he had in 2024. Like, you really can. Same thing with Rhea Ripley. Same thing with probably Gunther as well. So how in the world is it possible that these people get to not wrestle on TV? They don't cut good promos. This is the second layer to it. If you're not going to wrestle, cut good promos and build your stories. What amazing promo has Gunther cut in the last year? In his career at this point, in his whole career. Has he cut one riveting, you know what I'm saying, thrashing promo where he just absolutely destroyed the other person on the mic? And if it was the other person who got destroyed on the mic, was it someone besides like Damian Priest or Finn Balor or Carlito? You know, some jobber? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. Cody Rhodes, again, who has he absolutely torched on the mic in the last year and a half? You know what I'm saying? He had a decent promo when he was by himself talking about The Rock. That was decent. It was solid, I guess. And he had a good promo with Kevin Owens like 2 months ago. But outside of those two things, your WWE champion, your main event level talent, apparently, the captain of the industry, the North Star of the wrestling industry, I respect you. What? Gunther and Cody show up in suits and just don't wrestle. You show up in suits and tell us how much you respect your opponent and you love your opponent and you really respect them and everything they've done for this industry. Why don't you go ahead and wrestle for the industry? You know? It's very ridiculous. If you're not going to wrestle, cut good promos. Cody cuts no good promos. 2 good promos in a 400-day span is unacceptable for a quote-unquote main event level talent who has the WWE Championship. It doesn't make any sense. Gunther, again, when is the last time Gunther has been in a wrestling ring on Raw or SmackDown? When is the last time it's happened? What, maybe 3 or 4 weeks? Maybe 5 weeks? As your World Heavyweight Champion and he's not on the show for a month? Can you please find me a time in which John Cena or Edge or Orton or any world champion, Jericho, etc., just didn't show up to Raw or SmackDown while having the championship, just didn't show up for 4 or 5 weeks? Please tell me a time where that actually took place. I'm genuinely curious because I don't remember any of that ever taking place, you know, because it wasn't realistic. It's not plausible. You have to wrestle in order to build these storylines and prove why you're the best. This is one of the last points I'm going to talk about in this video. Wrestling nowadays is just not happening at all because, again, this is something I'm going to probably make a video on soon as well. Triple H copies Roman Reigns. He copied everything that made Roman Reigns successful. And shout out to the commenter that put this in the comments. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to flash their name up on the screen. It was a great comment that basically brought up a great point of how Triple H basically copies everything that made Roman Reigns' as tribal chief, you know, heel run as champion successful. Wrestlers barely showing up. You know what I'm saying? Wrestlers coming in, and when they do show up, you know, at least attempting to do something good. But I think Triple H forgot something, right? With a part-time schedule, you're supposed to be a hot commodity and a special attraction. The reason Roman Reigns was a special attraction when he was a super part-timer as champion was because every time he showed up, what he did was memorable. It was usually engaging. It was exciting. It felt like it had meaning. And he either wrestled a great match on the PLE or cut iconic promos. That's why there's hour-long compilations on YouTube just built off of the last 3 or 4 years alone of his title reign and of this tribal chief run. What other wrestler in the last year or so since Triple H fully took over, and you know, these wrestlers now like Cody, for example, who are full-time and are showing up every week but feel like they're not there because the significance is so low, what has Gunther or Cody delivered that's been iconic on the mic, or an iconic story element, or an iconic match that Cody had post-WrestleMania 40? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Gunther, what iconic matches has he had since he won the World Championship match? What great matches has he done? What amazing moments has he had? None. So in order for you to try and mimic what Roman Reigns' success was as the champion of the company, right? You have to understand that Roman Reigns' success and his talents and his gifts and what he was offering as an entertainer is a lot more than what talent like Gunther or Cody Rhodes or Rhea Ripley is ever going to be able to offer. Do you see what I'm saying? There should be no scenario where Sheamus, who is in his mid-40s, is wrestling more than Cody and Gunther combined. And not just wrestling more, he's wrestling great matches versus Ludwig, versus Braun Breaker. He had a good match versus Bronson Reed. You know, Sheamus is capable of doing these things. So how in the world is it possible that Cody and Gunther are incapable of doing it? You know, it doesn't really make any sense, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Not wrestling on the shows as well, last thing I'm going to talk about, not wrestling on the shows as well doesn't help, you know, feed into the dumb and lying narratives that WWE is already trying to lie to us about. You can't say that Cody Rhodes is the captain of the industry, the North Star, the workhorse who took the quote-unquote Cena schedule, which again, I talked about yesterday in my video why that stuff is stupid. Them even invoking Cena's name in comparison to these jobbers is absurd. But anyways, the Cena schedule, Gunther being a workhorse, all these other wrestlers being workhorses, but mid-carders like LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Sheamus, even Randy Orton, who at this stage in his career is obviously a mid-carder, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Bianca Belair, even for the women's division, other Liv Morgan even, Nia Jax, Naomi. These wrestlers are wrestling a lot more than your world champions are. So who's the real workhorse? Who's the real fighting champion? Who's the real captain of the industry? The person who wrestles and cuts promos every single week? And whether they're good or bad promos or whether they're good or bad matches, at least they're out there in the ring every single week or every other week. Carmelo Hayes is doing good segments backstage and then going in the ring to drop a match that's actually pretty good on average. LA Knight is cutting a great promo and then wrestling a good match right after it. Andrade is wrestling good or great matches every single week he's on the show. Do you see what I'm saying? So who's the real captain or the real workhorse? The dude who's wrestling every week and cutting promos? Or the dude who's cutting bad promos every single week and not wrestling at all barely on TV? You know what I mean? It's basic stuff that people have to start questioning with this new quote-unquote regime. Nobody wrestles anymore. Your champions don't deliver anything. And quite frankly, everyone who is in a position of power as a main eventer does not wrestle. So it's very simple now. We all see it for ourselves, and with that being said, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Point made, point taken, deal with it. Whether you love it, you hate it, you like it, you don't like it, these wrestlers now do not wrestle. The mid-carders wrestle, and the undercarders that nobody cares about wrestle, like Carlito and Damian Priest and Finn Balor and JD McDonough, they wrestle, but the upper card main eventers don't wrestle at all. And that's the end of the discussion. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your guys' support as always. I respect you. And I hope you all have a phenomenal day. Peace out. One love.